Hi class, this is the first video in our new online format. The way it will work is you watch the video, it'll give you some information. I've attached a paper that you can print out that you can use to follow along on the video. I want you to fill it out as you go through the video, and then you'll be taking a picture of that and submitting it as a submission to that assignment called video for section 6.6. You need to finish the video before we meet for this section, before the due date, which is the day we will meet. We'll be meeting at the regular time, 11:30, and you will have a chance to ask questions about anything you didn't understand, about the problems that you tried to do on the along with the video, or anything in the homework. So you should make sure that you've done the video and the paper, submitted the paper online, and that you have started the homework so that you can ask questions. If you don't have any questions, you don't have to stay very long, but I do want you to check in with me during our class time, during the conference with everybody there, so I know that you've been there. I will keep a roll of who comes. I want to hear your voice, see your picture. You'll have a chance to ask questions. If you don't have any questions, then you can go ahead and leave the conference whenever you'd like. But it will be a time when I can answer questions and do homework, help you with homework problems or review or whatever. So the section we're on is section 6.6. We already did, way back before all this craziness started, we did multiplying polynomials. So this is kind of an additional part of that that we'll be talking about today, kind of some special cases. So we're going to start by just doing some multiplying. So this whole section is, we're going to be talking about multiplying binomials. You've done harder multiplying than this in 6.5, but we're going to talk about binomials this time. So we're going to start by looking at this problem. If you want to stop right now and pause the video and go do it, however you remember how to do it, you can do that. I will ask you to do that on all the problems. If you need a reminder, then we'll do it two different ways for this one. The first way is the box. All right, so you probably remember, you multiply the two sides, the 2x and the 4x, we'll put that here as 8x squared. The 4x times 1 will be 4x. The 2x times 3 will be 6x. And the 3 times 1 will be 3. I'm sorry that sometimes the handwriting with this stylus doesn't look great, but we'll do the best we can. Remember that we add them, we combine like terms, we write it out nice and orderly with biggest degree first. We add the 4x and the 6x and get 10x. All right, and you probably remember that the other way to do it is by multiplying and distributing, or what they call the FOIL method. Yes, you do the first, the outside, the inside, and the last, right? You get the same factors that we got in the box. You add them together in the same way, and we get the same answer. All right, so you may do it either way you want. Here's one for you to try. Pause the video and see if you can do this. It's there on your paper. Work it out on your paper, whatever way you'd like to work it out, and turn the video back on when you're finished. All right, so hopefully you finished it. And I want you to notice a few things, because this problem turned out just a little bit different than the other ones we've looked at. First of all, this problem has x's in the beginning and 6's in the end. Okay, the first one is a plus, the second one is a minus. So we call this a sum. That's for the plus, right? A sum and difference. That's what we refer to this as, because they're the same numbers. There's the x and there's the 6. So we either do x plus 6 or do x minus 6. That would be a sum and a difference. All right, when we multiplied them together, hopefully you found okay, how come I'm not going to the next slide? Oh my gosh. All right, forgive me. We're going to just take a little pause here. Okay, there we go. Okay, here we go. Here's the solution when we work it all out. You may have done it with the box. You can do it with the box. I'm not going to work it out this time with the box. It's a little difficult with my stylus. But we end up with this. You notice that this time we have 2 parts, right? It's a binomial. The answer is a binomial. In the previous one, we had a trinomial, right? And this time, it's a binomial. And that's because these middle 2 terms canceled each other out. They added up to 0. That's always going to happen when we have a sum and difference. The middle term is always going to cancel each other out. And we're left with x squared minus 36, which are both perfect squares. So this is a square and this is a square. This is the difference of squares. That's what we call it. Remember this term here, that was the x. We square it, it goes there. This term, that was the 6. We square it, and that goes there. So we call this answer is the difference of squares. Okay, so here's kind of the general formula for what it looks like when you have the difference of squares. And if you worked this out in a box or with distributing using the FOIL method, this is what you get. But we don't have to work it out every time with the long way if we recognize what we have. All right, so the difference of 2 squares. So x squared and a squared, they both turn out to be perfect squares, what we call perfect squares. And here's a list of all the perfect squares. Right, so these are the first 20, not all of them, just the first 20. The first 20 perfect squares, right? So you should be pretty familiar with Most of these, up to here, these are just your 12 times tables. And then 13, 14, 15, so on up. This is 20 squared, right? So these are, now, you don't have to memorize all these because obviously you could square something on your calculator. But in the next chapter, we're going to kind of unmultiply. We'll be undoing the difference of two squares. And so you'll want to be able to recognize that they are actually squares. So that's why you kind of want to at least recognize these. All right, so when we notice that we have to do some multiplying, and we notice that this is a sum and difference, right? So x and 5, right? There's a sum, there's the difference. So that means that we don't have to do it the long way. We can take the first term squared, which would be x squared, minus the second term squared, which would be 5 squared. And that will give it for us. Now, we wouldn't leave it like that. We want to simplify it so we get x squared minus 25. Okay, so here's one for you to try. So pause the video and go try it. Remembering that the first term here is 8x. So you're going to want to do 8x all squared, right? 8x squared is going to be your first part. So pause the video now and go see if you can do it. Okay, hopefully you were able to figure it out when we do this one. We have that 8x squared, meaning we're going to bring in that squared to both of the parts because it's multiplied. Remember, we did that in the beginning of chapter 6. You bring in the squared to each thing, and we end up with 64x squared minus 9. All right, here's another one to do. You notice that this time it's x cubed, but that's okay. We're just going to do x cubed squared, right? So pause the video and see if you can do this problem using that difference of squares answer. Okay, hopefully you were able to get that. We end up with x cubed squared, right? Which, if you worked this out, this becomes x to the 6th minus 2 squared, which is 4. So the answer is x to the 6th minus 4. So the next special case, that was the first special case. Now this next special case is when we actually are multiplying the same binomial together. So when we are multiplying, when it looks like this, with the binomial inside parentheses and the power, right, the second degree power out there, this is what it is. It is not x squared plus a squared. That's not what it is. You can't bring that exponent in when it's an add or subtract inside. Now, we just did it a minute ago with a multiply. It works with multiply. When we had 8x squared, we did the 8 squared and the x squared. But when it's added, we can't do that. We have to work it out. Now, if you multiplied these together, either in the box or let's try it with a box. We'd get our x squared. We have a times x. We have another a times x. And we have x squared. So when we add these together, they are like terms. They have the same variables, ax, but we have 2 of them. And so you can see that that is where we got this equation right here. Oh, if there's a minus here, that shows up right there, and that's the only place that it shows up. All right, so here's the first one. You could put this on a box and you could get the right answer, or you could do the FOIL method and you would get the right answer. But it's faster and it's nice for us to get the idea if we just use that formula that we just showed. So we are going to do this like it is, like in that pattern, right? So we have the first one, the 2x, that's going to be squared, right? And then we have 2, there's our 2. And then we have the 3 and the 2x, right? So 2 times 3 times 2, that's going to be 12, right? Times x. And then the 3 squared. Let me get that out of the way. All right, here's another one. I want you to pause the video. I want you to try this. And try doing it using the formula and not by using a square or the FOIL method. Just give it a shot and try using the formula. All right, so go ahead, pause the video. Okay, so hopefully you found it. Here's the solution. We square the first term, the 5x. We take 2 times each of the other terms and 1 squared. And remember that this negative right here shows up right there. And that simplifies to be 25x minus 10x plus 1. All right, here's another one that looks a little different. That's okay. Whatever term is first, that's what we use like we were doing before, right? So we'll have the 9 squared will be our first term. The negative means the middle term is subtracted. So pause the video, see if you can work that out on your paper, and then come back and we'll see the solution. Okay, so here's the solution to that. We have the 9 squared. It's a subtract because of this negative here. And then we have the 2 and the 9 and the x. And then the x squared. This x right here is the x squared right there. All right, simplified, it turns out like that. So you might notice this is not in our standard form. If we wanted to write it in our standard form, we would write the x squared first. But our original binomial wasn't in the standard form either, right? Here's another one. So just because it's a y cubed doesn't mean we're going to do anything different. You just use it like we have done all the rest. So use that y cubed as the first term. So pause the video and see if you can do this problem. Okay, I hope you were able to do the problem. Here's the solution. We have the y cubed squared, right? There's the y cubed squared. And then we have 2 times 1 times y cubed. And then we have y squared. Now y cubed squared, remember, is y to the 6th. We already did one like that earlier today. So that's what it simplifies to be. All right, here is the big mistake that most people make. It is so tempting to say that when you have x plus a squared, that it's just x squared plus a squared. You're just bringing that 2 into each thing. That only works when you're multiplying. It is a common mistake, but it's deadly. You'll never get the right answers if you do that. And it shows up a lot, and it will show up in every class. Remember that you have to have 3 terms when you're done squaring a binomial. All right? All right, here are 5 problems. I want you to, they're in both of the things we talked about in this video. Pause the video, See if you can do these 5 problems. When you turn the video back on, I'll show you the solutions. Okay, hopefully you were able to do those. Here are the solutions to those 5 problems. So I want you to take a picture of your work and upload it to the assignment called Video Assignment for 6-6, and that will be the way you show me that you did this video. Alright, see you on the next video.